before we begin this incredible story, please subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you never miss our emotional stories that touch the heart. Marcus stood perfectly still outside the palace gates. His red uniform was spotless. His black boots shined in the morning sun. He had been a royal guard for 5 years now. Every day was the same. Stand straight. Don't move. Don't speak. Watch the crowds that came to take pictures. Today felt different, though. The crowd was larger than usual. Tourists pushed against the barriers. Children pointed at him. Cameras flashed constantly. Marcus kept his eyes forward. He had learned to ignore everything around him. A good guard was like a statue. Then he saw him. A tall man in a dark jacket. The man was moving through the crowd in a strange way. He wasn't looking at the palace. He wasn't taking pictures. His eyes were scanning the guards. Scanning the gates. Marcus felt his heart beat faster. Something was wrong. The man got closer. Marcus wanted to call for backup. But guards weren't supposed to move or speak. What if he was wrong? What if this was just a normal tourist? He would look foolish. He might even lose his job. The man pushed through the front line of tourists. He was now just feet away from Marcus. Suddenly, the man's hand went into his jacket. Marcus tensed. Was this it? Was this an attack? Time seemed to slow down. But instead of a weapon, the man pulled out his phone. Marcus felt relieved for just a second. Then the man did something unexpected. He walked right up to Marcus. He stood inches from his face. He started making funny faces and laughing. The crowd laughed too. Marcus stayed still. This happened sometimes. Rude tourists who wanted to make the guards react. He could handle this. The man got even closer. He started poking Marcus in the chest. The crowd's laughter got louder. Some people told the man to stop, but most just kept filming. Then it happened. The man suddenly kicked Marcus hard in the face. Pain exploded through his jaw. Marcus stumbled backward. Blood filled his mouth. The crowd gasped. Some people screamed. The man started running toward the palace gates. Marcus fell to one knee. His vision blurred. His training told him to stay calm, assess the situation, protect the palace. He could see other guards starting to move, but they were too far away. The man was fast. He would reach the gates in seconds. Marcus forced himself to stand. His face throbbed with pain. But something else took over. Not anger. Not revenge. Pure duty. He had sworn an oath to protect this palace. To protect the royal family inside. This man was a threat. And Marcus was the only one close enough to stop him. The world came back into focus. Marcus could see the man clearly now. He was almost at the palace gates. Behind those gates were the royal family. The princess was giving a speech in the garden today. If this man got through, anything could happen. Marcus started running. His legs felt heavy. His jaw screamed in pain with every step, but he pushed harder. The other guards were shouting now. Alarms began to ring, but Marcus knew he was the closest. He was the only chance. The attacker reached the gates. He grabbed the bars and started climbing. He was surprisingly quick. Marcus reached the gate just as the man got halfway up. Without thinking, Marcus jumped. He grabbed the man's leg and pulled hard. They both crashed to the ground. The man landed on top of Marcus. The impact knocked the wind out of him. For a moment, Marcus couldn't breathe. The man scrambled to get up. He threw a wild punch that connected with Marcus's already injured face. More pain. More blood. But Marcus held on. He wrapped his arms around the man's waist. The man kicked and punched. He was screaming something Marcus couldn't understand. The crowd behind them was in chaos. People were running in all directions. Children were crying. Finally, other guards arrived. 3 of them tackled the attacker. They pulled him off Marcus and pinned him to the ground. The man kept struggling, kept screaming, but he was caught now. The palace was safe. Marcus lay on the ground. He could taste blood. His vision was getting dark around the edges. He heard someone calling for a medic. Strong hands lifted him up. Someone was asking if he could walk. He tried to answer but couldn't make his jaw work properly. They carried him inside the palace. Marcus had never been inside before. Even as a guard, he always stood outside. The hallways were beautiful. Golden frames held paintings of past kings and queens. Crystal chandeliers hung from high ceilings. But Marcus could barely see any of it. The pain was taking over. They brought him to a medical room. A doctor appeared quickly. She had kind eyes and gentle hands. She cleaned the blood from his face. She examined his jaw carefully. She kept telling him he was brave, that he was a hero. Marcus didn't feel like a hero. He felt like he had just done his job. The doctor gave him something for the pain. It helped a little. She said his jaw wasn't broken, but badly bruised. He would need to rest for several weeks. No talking. Soft foods only. Marcus nodded. He was just grateful it wasn't worse. Outside the medical room, Marcus could hear voices. Important voices. Someone was asking about the guard who stopped the attacker. Someone else was saying the man had a knife hidden in his boot. He had been planning to take a hostage, maybe hurt someone in the royal family. Marcus closed his eyes. A knife. The man had a knife. If Marcus hadn't stopped him, if those few seconds had been different, someone could have died. The thought made him feel sick. The door opened. Marcus expected another doctor. Instead, Captain Williams walked in. He was the head of all the royal guards. A tall man with gray hair and a stern face. Marcus had only spoken to him twice in 5 years. He tried to sit up straighter, but pain stopped him. Captain Williams walked to the bedside. His stern face softened slightly. He looked at Marcus's swollen jaw and shook his head. For a long moment, he said nothing. Marcus worried he was in trouble. Maybe he should have called for backup sooner. Maybe he shouldn't have left his post. Then Captain Williams did something unexpected. He saluted. A full, formal salute. To Marcus, a regular guard. Marcus tried to salute back, but his arms felt too heavy. The captain smiled slightly and lowered his hand. The captain told Marcus that he had saved lives today, that the attacker had been planning something terrible, that Marcus's quick thinking and bravery had stopped a tragedy. He said the royal family wanted to thank him personally. When he was feeling better, of course, Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. Thank him. The royal family? He had just been doing his duty, what any guard would do. But the captain shook his head. Not every guard would have gotten back up after being kicked in the face. Not every guard would have chased an attacker while injured. Marcus was special. After the captain left, Marcus lay in the quiet room. His whole body ached. His face throbbed. But he felt something else too. Pride. Real pride. Not the kind that comes from wearing a nice uniform or standing at attention. The kind that comes from knowing you did the right thing when it mattered most. The next morning, Marcus woke up in a proper hospital. They had moved him during the night. His jaw still hurt, but the worst of the pain had faded. A nurse brought him soup and told him to eat slowly. The television in his room was playing the news. Then Marcus saw himself. Video from yesterday. A tourist had filmed everything. Marcus watched as the man kicked him. Watched as he fell. Then watched as he got back up and chased the attacker. The news anchor was calling him a hero, saying he embodied the best of royal service. His phone started buzzing. Messages from everyone he knew. His mother, his old friends from school, his training instructor. Everyone had seen the news. Everyone was proud. Marcus felt overwhelmed. He had always been a quiet person, someone who stayed in the background. Now the whole country knew his name. 3 days passed in the hospital. Marcus's jaw healed slowly. Doctors came and went. They all said the same thing. He was lucky. A few inches different, and his jaw could have been broken. Or worse, Marcus didn't feel very lucky. But he was alive, and the palace was safe. That was what mattered. On the 4th day, something extraordinary happened. A royal assistant arrived at his hospital room. She was dressed in an elegant blue suit. She carried an envelope with the royal seal on it. She told Marcus that Princess Catherine herself wanted to meet him. Would he be well enough to visit the palace tomorrow? Marcus couldn't speak properly yet, but he nodded so hard his jaw ached. The assistant smiled and left the envelope. Inside was a formal invitation and a handwritten note. The princess thanked him for his service, for his courage, for protecting her family. Marcus read it 10 times. The next morning, Marcus put on a fresh uniform. Someone from the palace had brought it to the hospital. It was perfectly pressed. His medals had been polished until they gleamed. He looked at himself in the mirror. His face was still bruised. Yellow and purple marks covered his jaw. But he stood straight, shoulders back. Just like his training taught him, a royal car picked him up. The driver was friendly. He told Marcus that everyone at the palace was talking about him. The other guards looked up to him now. The staff admired his bravery. Even the royal family had spoken about him at dinner. Marcus felt his face get hot. He wasn't used to this kind of attention. They arrived at the palace. But this time, Marcus didn't enter through the service entrance. The car drove right up to the main doors. The same doors that only important visitors used. The doors he had guarded hundreds of times but never walked through. Inside, the palace was even more beautiful than he remembered from his brief visit to the medical room. Paintings covered every wall. Some were hundreds of years old. Marble floors reflected the light from enormous windows. Marcus tried not to stare, tried to act like he belonged here. The assistant led him through long hallways. They passed rooms filled with golden furniture, libraries with thousands of books, a music room with 3 grand pianos. Finally, they reached a set of double doors. The assistant knocked gently. A voice from inside said to enter. Princess Catherine sat in a comfortable chair by a large window. She was younger than Marcus expected, maybe in her 30s. She had kind eyes and a warm smile. When Marcus entered, she stood up immediately. She walked over to him and extended her hand. Marcus shook her hand carefully. His jaw made it hard to speak, but he managed a quiet greeting. The princess told him to please sit, to be comfortable. She asked how he was feeling. If the doctors were taking good care of him, her concern seemed genuine, not the fake politeness of someone just being proper. They talked for almost an hour. The princess asked about his life, his family, why he became a royal guard. Marcus answered as best he could. His jaw still made talking difficult, but the princess was patient. She listened carefully to every word. Then the princess told him something that changed everything. She had been in the garden that day. The day of the attack, she had seen everything from a window, seen the man kick Marcus, seen Marcus fall. But more importantly, she had seen him get back up, seen him chase the attacker despite his injuries. The princess said that moment meant everything to her. It showed true character, true dedication. Anyone could be brave when they felt strong. But being brave when you were hurt, when you were afraid, that was real courage. That was what her family needed. What the country needed? She explained that the attacker had been planning to climb over the gate and take her hostage. He had a knife and a manifesto full of angry political demands. If Marcus hadn't stopped him, the situation could have become a national tragedy. Marcus felt cold hearing this. He had known it was serious. But hearing the details made it real in a new way. The princess reached for a small box on the table beside her. She opened it and removed a medal. It was beautiful, silver and blue with the royal crest in the center. She told Marcus this was the Medal of Valor. It was rarely given, only to those who showed exceptional bravery in protecting the royal family. She asked Marcus to stand. He did, trying to ignore the pain in his jaw. The princess pinned the medal to his uniform. She stepped back and saluted him. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. He had never imagined anything like this. He was just a regular guard, just doing his job. But the princess shook her head. She told him he was wrong. He wasn't just a regular guard anymore. He was an example, a reminder that duty and honor still mattered, that there were still people willing to sacrifice themselves for others. She wanted him to continue serving. But in a new role, the princess offered Marcus a position as a personal protection officer. He would be part of the small team that directly guarded the royal family. It meant better pay, better training, more responsibility. But more than that, it meant trust. Complete trust from the people he had sworn to protect. Marcus didn't hesitate. He accepted immediately. Despite his injured jaw, he managed to thank the princess properly, to tell her that protecting her family was his honor. She smiled and told him to rest, to heal. When he was ready, his new position would be waiting. As Marcus left the palace that day, he walked past his old post, the spot where he used to stand for hours, where he had stood just days ago, when everything changed. Another guard stood there now. Young and nervous-looking, Marcus remembered being that nervous on his first day. 6 weeks later, Marcus returned to full duty. His jaw had healed completely. Only a small scar remained. The doctors said it would fade with time. But Marcus didn't mind the scar. It reminded him of that day, of the choice he made to get back up, to keep fighting. His new role was different from anything he had imagined. He traveled with the princess to official events, stood nearby during public appearances, reviewed security plans with the captain. It was challenging work, but Marcus loved every moment. The other guards treated him differently now. Some with respect, some with a touch of envy, but mostly with admiration. Marcus tried to stay humble. He knew that any of them would have done the same thing. He just happened to be the one in that position that day. One afternoon, Marcus was reviewing security footage with a junior guard named Thomas. Thomas was new. Only 3 months on the job. He kept asking Marcus questions about that day, about what he was thinking when he got kicked, when he decided to chase the attacker. Marcus thought carefully before answering. He told Thomas the truth. He had been scared. His face hurt terribly. Part of him wanted to stay down, to let someone else handle it. But then he remembered why he took this job. To serve, to protect. That duty was bigger than his fear, bigger than his pain. Thomas listened carefully. He asked if Marcus ever regretted getting back up, if the injury was worth it. Marcus smiled and shook his head. He told Thomas about meeting the princess, about receiving the medal. But more than that, he told him about the feeling of knowing he had saved lives. That feeling was worth any amount of pain. News reporters still occasionally asked to interview Marcus. He usually said no. He didn't become a guard for fame or attention. But once, he agreed to a brief interview. They asked him what he wanted people to learn from his story. Marcus thought about all the messages he had received, from kids who wanted to be guards, from people struggling with difficult situations, from others who felt afraid to stand up when it mattered. He told them that courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about being afraid and doing the right thing anyway. He explained that everyone faces moments that test them, moments where they can choose to stay down or get back up. Those moments define who we are, not our titles, not our positions, but our choices when things are hard, when it would be easier to quit, to walk away, to let someone else handle it. The interview aired on national television. Marcus watched it with his mother. She cried and held his hand. She told him his father would have been so proud. His father had been a firefighter. He had died saving people from a burning building when Marcus was 12. That loss had shaped Marcus's whole life. Now Marcus understood his father in a new way. Understood why he ran into that building. Why he couldn't just stand outside and wait. Some people are built to protect others, built to put duty before safety. Marcus carried that same quality, that same fire inside him. Months turned into years. Marcus continued serving as a royal protection officer. He got married to a wonderful woman named Sarah. She understood his dedication to his work. She supported him, even when his job meant long hours and constant vigilance. They built a good life together. Marcus also started teaching at the Royal Guard Academy. He shared his experience with new recruits, taught them that being a guard was more than ceremony and tradition. It was about being ready when it mattered, about having the courage to act when others froze. One day, a young recruit approached Marcus after class. The boy reminded Marcus of himself years ago. Nervous, but determined. The recruit asked Marcus what the most important quality for a guard was. Strength? Speed. Intelligence? Marcus smiled. He told the recruit it was none of those things. The most important quality was simple: get back up. No matter how hard you get hit, no matter how much it hurts. If you can get back up and keep fighting, you can handle anything this job throws at you. Years later, Marcus still wore his Medal of Valor with pride, not because of what it said about him, but because of what it represented. A moment when everything could have gone wrong, when tragedy could have struck, but didn't, because one guard chose to get back up. The story of that day became legendary among the Royal Guards. They told it to new recruits, used it as an example in training. Marcus became a living symbol of what it meant to serve with honor, to put duty above personal safety, to embody the very best of what a Royal Guard should be. But to Marcus, it was simpler than all that. He had just been a man doing his job, a man who refused to stay down when it mattered most. And that choice, that single moment of decision, had changed his entire life. He had learned that heroes aren't born. They're made in moments of crisis, when everything's on the line. When getting back up is the hardest thing in the world, that's when true character shows itself. Marcus hoped his story would inspire others to find their own courage, to discover what they were capable of when tested, because everyone has that moment coming, that test, that choice. And when it arrives, the only question that matters is simple: will you stay down, or will you get back up?